Hey, everybody, and welcome to Authors and Dragons Side Quest, the episodes we do between the episodes of the main game for which the podcast is named. And I am running out of ever more convoluted ways to introduce that. I am Drew Hayes. Joining me today are Rick Gualtieri and Robert Bevan from the main podcast, and our special guest, Amy Landon.
Hey, thanks for having me on, guys. I'm thrilled to be here.
We are thrilled to have you.
We're pretty much thrilled when anyone talks to us.
I am.
Oh, that's nice. You're making me feel real special.
Now, folks, if Amy's voice sounds familiar, you might recognize her as the narrator of many acclaimed and well-known books, much more than the one you might know her from me associated, such as White Fragility, Verity, The Queen's Gambit, and yes, Forging Hephaestus.
Yes, indeed. I think you just hit the highlights there, didn't you?
Well, I do my research.
Thank you. So, Queen's Gambit in the last 2 weeks has just gone through the roof. Thank you, Netflix. I appreciate it.
I was going to ask you about that one because I was checking over your audibles and everything, and that one, like, it showed up pretty high in the relevancy, but it did not have a ton of like reviews and stuff that you would expect, and I imagine that's going to change soon with the popularity of that show.
Yeah, I think so. It's been on the bestseller list the last 2 weeks, I want to say, but before that, no one was paying attention. It's a book from the 80s, actually. It was backlist.
Really?
Yeah, that book is from the 80s. And for some reason, Netflix decided to make it into a TV show. And it's a delightful TV show. I watched it. It's really fun if you are into chess.
Yeah, I watched it. I was not expecting to enjoy it, but I did.
Right?
Yes.
It's kind of, they make it enjoyable watching like this whole chess thing. It's great. All of a sudden, you've got people caring about chess games in the newspapers and following chess like it's a major news story. And it's kind of nice in the middle of the world ending right now.
What I love is that Drew ends up with all these awesomely talented, narrators who have done so many great things, and his stuff is like their walk of shame.
Yeah, it's terrible. Forging Hephaestus is really, really awful. That's why I've been harassing him for the past year to find out when the sequel's coming. Drew, I want to know what happens. Drew, you got to write it so I know what happens.
You are going to have a lot of interesting parts to work with on this one. I guess we'll go ahead and touch on that real quick because if not, the questions are going to be in the comments. The sequel to Forging Hephaestus is still planned for 2020. At this point, I'm thinking mid to late-ish December, but it is looking still really good for December. We haven't hit anything that would make me think we're going to spin off course beyond that. Now, of course, that is not the version that Amy will prepare. That's going to take a little longer because it's over a 300,000 word book. So, her voice is going to need
I could do that in a
recovery time.
weekend. I could do that in a weekend, Drew. That'd be fine.
Honestly, I might believe that because you have a ridiculous amount of entries to your name.
Yeah, I've done a few books, just a couple.
Yeah, I know. I'm like looking on Audible, and I'm like, you've probably narrated more than I've read.
And I've got a second name.
Oh my goodness.
Holy.
So there's a whole second library that's about the same size, if not larger, under a second name.
So I actually looked up the number earlier for this point exactly. Yeah, as of this recording, you show 244 listings in Audible, and not like I skimmed through. Like there are a few like 2 to 3 hour novella ones in there, but most of them are in the 8 to 9 legitimate like novel length capacity. So that is a ton of work.
It is, and luckily I think I've actually hit my sweet dream job. I'm the kid who was in school all the time, and the teachers would yell at me because I was stopped paying attention because I was reading books. So now I'm like, oh, I just get paid to read books. This is great. I learn a lot. It's fun. I find new authors. It's fantastic. And I grew up a fantasy sci-fi nerd. I will fully own that. I got to narrate a Mercedes Lackey backlist book that was written in the 80s. I think last year, and I got it, and my little teenage heart was just like, oh my god, I read this book probably 15 times growing up. I know this book backward and forward.
That is
so when
awesome.
when things like that come down the pipe, you're like, that's cool, I'll take it. Has anyone done all the David Eddings yet? I have no idea. I probably couldn't. They'd probably choose a guy. That'd be like a Kirby Hayborn series, but
Speaking of which,
Yeah, actually, that is a good segue. We tend to ask this. We've had a few narrators on, and kind of one we always have to start with because it's such a unique field is how did you get into voice acting? Like what led to this particular career that you are clearly doing amazing at?
Well, like so many people, I think I just kind of was walking along and tripped and just fell right into it face first. Um, I was in New York. I was a theater actor. I went to school to become a Shakespeare actor. Very useful, guys. You can really make a living doing Shakespeare, just in case you're wondering. You can't really. That was a joke. You really can't. So I went and got like my Shakespeare training, and I moved to New York, and I'm gonna do Shakespeare forever. And then I started booking commercials just left and right. And so that's actually was like my bread and butter. I was doing Home Depot commercials, and I was doing paint commercials, and just random things that you can still find on the internet today. Um, Fingernail polish, things like that. And then I just had a friend who was like, you should go to Audible. You should go read a book. You'd be good at that. And I was like, all right, can you hook me up with that? So he sent me Mike Charzik's email, who runs Audible, or the Audible division of it. He's still the head of it. So I emailed him and he's like, oh yeah, just come over to New Jersey. Come read something for me. So I took the train to Jersey. He handed me 2 scripts. One, I still remember, one was like a romance novel, because so one was a couple pages of a romance novel, and the other was like this nonfiction thing about the universe and planets and very Nat Geo kind of thing. And I just sat at his desk and I read it for him. And then he looked at me and he said, great, I got a book for you next week. And so I said, okay. And I did one book. And then I did another book. And then I did another book. And then I up and moved to LA and had no plans. And I got out here and I was like, oh. And then everyone said, do you have a home studio? And I was like, yeah, of course I do. Yeah, I have a home studio. So I built one in a closet. Bought a mic, taught myself a bunch of stuff, and you fake it till you make it.
This story sounds familiar.
Fake it till you make it. And about a year in, I bought a fancy booth and upgraded my mic and really got my tech game in order, And now I kind of do this full time. I still do TV and film sometimes. I have commercials out there. Occasionally I get a video game, which is super fun. And my fingers are crossed that someday I will get to be some kind of animal in an animated movie. Like that would just be money. A turtle, a squirrel, I don't know, something like that. So yeah.
Yeah. I think that's very, very viable. Hopefully once the trend of casting expensive celebrity voices in those fades back, we get some more actual voice actors in those roles again.
Yeah. I don't even have to be a lead. I just want to be like a squirrel,
Yeah, celebrity voices who sound just like the celebrity.
Exactly. I have done some of those auditions where you're like, yeah, I can sound like Andy McDowell. It's okay, sure. I don't know.
You're like, look, I'm not even asking to be Squirrel Girl in the animated series. I'll just be the squirrel, all right?
Just the squirrel. I just want to be like the squirrels from Sword in the Stone kind of thing. Only did they talk? I don't even remember.
Yeah,
That's been a while.
but some casting director was like, yeah, but it's really hard to beat Chris Rock chittering.
That is fair. It's actually, it's hard to beat Chris Rock chittering. That's fair. That's fair. I get that. So yeah, now I narrate pretty much full time, and I could not be happier. I get to do great books, and I sit at home and read to myself. It's pretty great.
Yeah, I was gonna say if I won't say lucking because there's obviously a lot of talent involved, but yeah, ending up with a career like that where it's like I like to write, I like to act, I like to read. Yeah, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it's like the sweet spot. I really was the biggest book nerd you've ever met as a kid. I was the kid who went to the library twice a week. I'm admitting a lot about my nerdiness right now.
Honestly, this is a really eerily similar origin story for me because that was exactly what I was doing. I used to go out into the hallway and read books by myself. I was a librarian aide for like a few grades just so I could be left alone with my books.
Yeah, I remember getting yelled at in a few of my lit classes because they were like, "We're only reading these chapters in this book." I'm like, "No, you're only reading these chapters in this book."
I'm reading the whole thing. Oh yeah. My best friend in I think it was grade school, was the librarian. I think I was 4th or 5th grade when she handed me my first big fantasy series. that was, oh boy, Pern, the Dragon Riders of Pern people. So I don't know what age is fourth grade, 10 maybe. And all of a sudden I'm reading along. I was like, oh, this is getting sexy. Oh, this is like, oh, these are written for grown-ups. And then I, of course, read every single book that Anne McCaffrey ever wrote. I was like, well, this is interesting. I'm just going to go down this path. There's dragons and there's sex. That is a win-win. You know?
I know it could be both.
Right? This is great.
Yeah, it's like picking up Planet of the Cave Bear. I like cavemen. Oh crap!
Yeah, I think my 11th middle school teacher gave me the Thornbirds, which I don't know if you're familiar with that. You probably wouldn't be, but it's all about a Catholic priest having an affair with like a 13-year-old girl. It is not, you're like, this is really, really racy to give to like a sixth grader. But my English teacher did, so it's.
Well, that actually brings up a pretty good question. Okay, so I mean, we're all of us here are writers, and I don't know about the rest of the guys, but I know one thing with me that is I used to be a voracious reader. I still enjoy reading, but writing has sort of killed a little bit of the magic for me. So does narration do the same thing where you find it's difficult to read for pleasure now, or is it just feed the beast?
Dude, that's a solid question. There's that thing of like, do the thing that you love and you love what you do every day. And I'm like, also, but do the thing that you love and it becomes your job. Whew.
Yeah.
Right? Like there's a fine line there in the whole pursuing the thing that you love where it becomes work. I mean, I still read for pleasure, but I just rarely have time. I'm pretty much always narrating a book while prepping the next book. So I'm reading ahead while I'm narrating. I do try to listen to at least one audiobook a month so that I'm hearing my peers, I'm hearing what they're doing, I'm listening and stealing from the best.
Scoping that competition.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, totally. And or I find the books where I'm like, I just don't have time to read this, so I'm going to listen to this, Patrick Rothfuss, I think I ended up doing both of his books. If he ever finishes the King Killer Chronicles, maybe I'll hear the third one. So I do listen to at least one book a month, or try to, if I can. But yeah, it's tough. When you do what you love, you're also like, wow, I just need to go make a pancake or something.
Yeah.
The best analogy I found for it is it's kind of like riding in a car when you're a child versus riding in a car after you've learned to drive and become an adult. Like, because when you read in the kid driving along part, you're just experiencing and enjoying and it's happening and so on. But once you're aware of what's happening on the road, it's hard to turn off that part of your brain that's always like, oh crap, is that guy about to hit us?
Yeah.
Is that guy about to hit us? And it's sort of the same with the books. It's like I can't necessarily turn off some of the parts of my brain that I would be using if I was reviewing my own stuff.
Although I will say, for new drivers, there is that period of breaking in where it's like so new and awesome. And when my oldest was old enough to drive, we abused the shit out of that along the lines of, we could really go for some like Sonic slushies right now, but none of us want to go out. Hey, new driver, you want to take the keys?
Yeah. It is also like the magic curtain, right? So anytime I watch TV and film, I'm like, oh, well, I know that those actors were freezing their ass off. I can tell that was a night shoot. They probably shot this in January, so your brain is, how it's made. You know how the sausage is made. You can't unknow that. But on the other hand, when you get a really good sausage, you're like, I know what that took. And I am impressed.
Very fair point.
Like when I hear a really great narration of an audiobook, I'm just like, well, hats off, man. R.C. Bray doing The Martian, I was just like, that is a brilliant performance.
No, I think that's an excellent point. Because, I mean, I think it's hard for us to turn off our editor hats when we're like, when we're reading along the lines of, I would do this different or so. But sometimes you get a book, you still can find a book that is so well written that you just lose yourself in it. And it makes you realize the magic is still there.
Oh, man. Someone can genuinely catch me by surprise. Not like a bad twist, but something that was there and I didn't see it. Oh, God, that's the best.
It's so satisfying, right? It's so satisfying when you've been like doing plots since you were 12 and all of a sudden someone gives you something you didn't see coming. It's just like, I mean, hats off. Hats off.
There's a reason it's 4 years later and I still haven't shut up about The Good Place.
Fair. Yeah, there you go.
Just makes me feel inadequate.
Bob, I think it's very safe to say that at least one time you have been someone who has surprised me with your writing. That is not a stretch in the slightest.
Yeah, but not because of the quality of it necessarily. Just, oh, that's really horrible. And yet it worked.
I will admit I kind of had that moment reading Secondhand Curses, by Drew, because it was like, I still talk about that book when Drew's not in earshot even, because it's just so well written. But from the editing standpoint, the thing that also I can't get off of is the fact that Drew actually managed to do third person omniscient and make it work.
Ooh, that's rough.
Really hard to do.
Yeah.
It's really hard to do.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. I got to narrate this horror novel that I'm sure is going to be turned into a movie. And it was my first time that I ever got to a chapter where I went, this is first person plural narration.
Oh.
Ooh.
It was a chapter told from the point of view of both of the gay dads, like this married couple. And I was like, this is the weirdest thing I think I have ever, I'm not a guy and I'm narrating this and it's all we did this and we and the narration. It was really interesting, very effective.
Were they bored?
Brilliant. Borg. No, just humans at the end of this novel trying to decide who's going to, well, I don't want to give all the details away,
Yeah.
but who's going to kill whom really is what's happening.
God, I don't think I've ever read anything in first person plural.
No.
I can barely envision it.
That's something you have to be doing really intentionally, or it's a mistake.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was a first. It was strange for sure.
I want to circle back real quick for Bob's thing of not never with the cleverness of the surprise. No, man, I still remember the first Critical Failures, the way that horse spell was used in close quarters as a combat move, laughing my ass off because I played D&D for at least like 15 years at that point, and I was like, how have I never thought of combatively casting horse?
I apparently need to read this.
Thank you. And yes, you do.
Yeah.
It's the Critical Failures series, and it's a very, very fun one. But focusing back on your works, Amy, I wanted to ask, so you have done a ton of audiobooks and a ton of voices. I was going to say, what would you say is among the most challenging ones that you've had to do or take on?
Oh, challenging is interesting. I think that usually the hardest thing is when you get into some book where you're like, oh, this is a conversation between 6 people and they all have different accents and you're trying to keep the flow going. And I'm jumping from, I remembered I was doing this sci-fi where I had 3 scientists debating about whatever they were debating, time travel, I think. And one was Chinese and one was German. And the third was Chinese and German and I think Argentinian or something. But these really tech-heavy conversations, and I'm trying to jump in accent and keep the flow going. And I would get to the end of a chapter and just like, my brain is broken. My brain and my mouth are done. Like it can't even function anymore. So I would say that's probably the biggest challenge. I'm gonna go with that.
Yeah, that definitely that sounds like that would be a tough one.
Yeah. I mean,
big group scenes in general. Big group scenes where you're like, oh, there's 20 people having this conversation.
Yeah, those are tough enough to write. So I sometimes feel bad when I hand something off to a narrator. I'm like, this was tough to write. Man, I wouldn't want to say it out loud.
Right. Good luck. I assume Drew is over there whistling because I've got a big one coming up. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm the opposite. I just kind of sometimes I'll put in little tongue twisters or something just to fuck with my narrator.
Nice. That is the old Stephen Fry and the Harry Potter. I don't know if it's true, but do you know that story about him?
No.
He was narrating the first Harry Potter book, and he got to the point where he says, and then Harry pocketed it. something. He was pocketing something, pocketed it. And he sent a note off to J.K. Rowling and just said, that's just, it's crap to say. Please don't ever put that in the other books. It just sounds terrible. It doesn't flow. And I want to kill myself. So she then proceeded to put it in every single Harry Potter book.
Oh, I heard the version of the story where Stephen Fry was having trouble with it and asked her not to do it. And she was like, fuck you.
Just say it every time. Yeah. Yeah. Tongue twister is really nice. It's fun.
One of my series has a lot of Gaelic in it, and I've put it in there knowing 100% that I don't know how to pronounce it.
Thank you. That's so nice. I just got to narrate a 28-hour dictionary. This is nonfiction. It's an actual dictionary, but it's a dictionary of demons, most of whom these names are pulled from like medieval texts. There's no way to know how to say 90% of them. I mean, it was like, okay, well, I'm just gonna.
Well,
How do you pronounce
that's
15
good for you
consonants in a row?
because nobody can dispute your pronunciation. It can be whatever the fuck you want.
And the whole point of the Dictionary of Demons is for people to do exorcisms, so you have to say the demon's name out loud. And I was like, oh, good. So I get to be the definitive pronunciation of this? Don't put that pressure on me. I'm going to end up in hell for this.
Who knows what kind of weird shit you're unleashing?
Right? Like, the Catholic Church is going to come after me. It's going to be bad.
10 demons just move into your house. Like, you summon us. Like, oh, son of a bitch.
Stop.
Clean some shit.
God, now I got to go find all the angels' names and figure out how to say those. Yeah.
I find it weird sometimes. I'll write a name and I'll have it in my head how it's pronounced, but then not until I have to, a narrator will ask, like, so what is the pronunciation of this? Do I stop and think, ooh, is that actually how it would be pronounced?
Oh, yeah. Or sometimes I ask authors thinking it's like no big deal, and I'm like, oh, you're doing this really differently. Okay. I did a YA fantasy series where they'd based all the names on the French pronunciation. So a name that's spelled Catherine that I would normally say Catherine should be like Katarine, and all of these just like weird twists. I was like, just say every name the way you want me to say it, and I will happily say it that way, because I look at Catherine and I say Catherine.
Pronunciation guides are our friends.
They are. They keep us sane. Us poor little narrators. Pronunciation guides are really helpful. Unless you don't care how I say it, in which case I'll just.
Yeah, that's how I am with a lot of things. I'll write a name and the narrator will be like, oh, that's not how I had it in my head, but that's the way it is now.
It's pronunciation roulette, It's great. It's fun.
Yeah, truly. Like, a lot of them, it is just sort of I don't know, whatever sounds the best is probably the right answer.
Yeah, whatever flows. Whatever flows is good. Just don't use names like Lilith or Seth. Those are Seth said, Seth, Lilith. It's awful. It sounds so terrible on a mic.
Yeah, I have one character in one of my series. His name is Ed, and every time I write like Ed said, I just cringe.
Oh yeah, say it out loud, guys. Say it out loud.
I imagine the weirdest one has to be for Scott Aiello for me, who does the 5-Minute Sherlock series, in which the way I describe Sherman's dialogue is verbal off-roading. He's sort of barely sane and just kind of says the word that feels the most like what he wants. And so there's sort of almost like it's half nonsensical. That's part of the character. And I just feel bad, but I also love giving him tons and tons of alliteration and stuff like that.
Oh, I bet he loves it, though. That actually sounds really fun. You're just like, I'm going to go off half-cocked. I'm going to have a shot of whiskey, and I'm going to narrate this. It's going to be great.
It's like, here's the thing. You have to be completely sincere, and then everything else just go fucking nuts.
That just spew. Just let it out. It's great. Yeah.
So we talked a little bit before about your current work setup. So clearly working from home was already the starting point, but we are recording this in 2020. I wanted to ask, how has the pandemic affected your work process?
For For the most part, not much has changed. I used to go into the studio for certain publishers, and that just has all gone away. So now sometimes we have directors in my booth with me, which is interesting, or people running my session from afar. And so I have an editor who's running sessions through my computer, and it's all very strange, very weird. And I miss being in a studio with real people just because we so rarely see them as narrators. We so rarely see humans. We spend so much time alone that it's nice to see. It's nice to go in and be like, oh, hi, it's a director and an engineer. We can just talk about flowers or rainbows or anything you want, really. I'm here. But otherwise, everything's kind of the same. I was talking to another narrator and we're like, pandemic's weird for us. It's kind of like we're the fish in the fishbowl while the house is getting robbed. Like we can look out and we're like, that looks like shit. That's terrible. But in here, everything's fine. It's just all the same, you know? I'm just swimming around. The temperature is great.
Step out of the booth, find the world's ended.
You know,
Yeah,
I'm just gonna step right back in.
Kind of. That's a little bit how it feels. I'm like, well, not much has actually changed for me. But you look out the window and it's pretty terrible.
Yeah, it's I think true for a vast majority of us on the call. We're all full-time authors as well, so sort of the same. Like I've been living in my office working in basketball shorts as my official uniform for like 7 years now. So being locked in didn't really affect that in any meaningful way outside of everything not work related, obviously.
Right.
Really, the only thing that's changed for me is now my kids are home being homeschooled, and I'm kind of in charge of them because my wife goes out to do her job. So between like 9 and 1 p.m., I kind of have to split my my thing between, okay, I'm editing this horrific murder scene versus do your fucking math.
Oh, it sounds like your parenting's great, though. I like it. Do your fucking math, kid. Shut up. That's got to be tough, though, actually. That probably killed your workflow.
It depends what I'm doing. Like I found it was okay writing and editing, but I'm doing the final stages of a book right now, which includes text to speech editing, where I'm letting the computer read it back to me to catch clunky sentences, and that I really can't do while they're doing homeschool. So that's really kind of like that's knocking me down to maybe 2 or 3 hours of productivity a day, which is not fun for a long book.
Do that for the
Do
whole-
you all do that? Do you all do speech to text? And
God,
listen to
no.
it?
God, I do that for my
Uh,
blogs, my 1,000-word blogs, and I'm still like, oh, this is kind of annoying, but I can't imagine doing that for hundreds of thousands of words. My brain would eat its way out.
It sucks. I'm just going to tell you that right now, and it is a perfect cure for insomnia. But let me tell you, I can read a paragraph 50 times on my own, but then hearing the computer read it back to me, and suddenly I'll realize, holy crap, how clunky all this shit sounds.
Do you, Bob?
No, not at all.
That's dedication, Rick. Hats off to you, man. That it's a good step to put in there. I cannot fathom having the focus to get through that meaningfully.
The sad thing is it does take weeks to get through a book, like especially the size I'm doing right now. But it's also kind of like my last step. Like after that, it goes out for editing. It comes in. All I'm doing is just going through the track changes and stuff. So it's done at that point. So that's kind of almost my victory celebration. If I can get through that step, that the end is in sight.
Fair. And you do find things when you say things out loud. I mean, the way certain words sound together, the way things are, how they butt up against each other, the flow when you have to say it out loud, it can be very telling.
Repeated words. It is brutal with repeated words.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. I just never thought about an author sitting around listening to the voice to text app for hours on end.
It gives my books that extra bit of polish, and as I've told my readers, they're worth it.
Yeah. Well done. Drew and Bob, you should step up your game.
I'm all right. I use 2 editors and several beta readers that I really trust. I've got enough checks in the way. I'm not going to try to listen to 300,000 words of text.
Yeah, I was going to say that would probably eat up about 6 months of Drew's time.
Yeah, wait, Rick, how long is the book you're doing this for? That's taking months.
No, this is not taking months. This will probably take me about 3 weeks, but this book is about 145,000.
Okay.
Woo.
All right.
It's a good sized book, man.
Yeah, my readers aren't worth it.
we all have our own best practices.
Yeah, we've all been doing this long enough. We each have our own way of doing it.
Hey, as long as you got a system and the system works, whatever. You know?
Truly, the system is such a big part of like starting out as an indie author. Like not having an idea of what your steps should be makes the process so much harder. And I imagine it's probably a lot the same for getting into the narration game, is slowly figuring out how you get the best results out of you.
Yeah, but I will say I think there is something to be said for the indie version of life. It takes longer, but I think you get more distinct voices out of it. Because there's not someone telling you that this is how you should do things and this is the exact step for everyone, or this is how something should be written. You don't learn all of the rules in the right way, which I think makes for more interesting work, personally.
I mean, you're not going to find a lot of people who are against the indie spirit on this call. I think
Yeah.
I'm hybrid, Bob's full indie, Rick
Former hybrid.
former hybrid. Former hybrid.
Well, it's you know what it was. I had a book in a couple of or I had a couple stories in anthologies under a few publishers that I've since kind of pulled back.
I was like, how did you get unpublished?
Yeah.
Sorry,
Yeah.
go ahead, Amy.
Oh no, I think there is something to be, training is helpful and useful. I certainly did it, but you can also, there's something about like being overtaught or overtrained in the thing that you want to do that can sometimes, it just polishes it up too much. I like a little bit of rough edges. It makes it more interesting.
Oh yeah, I mean, as cool as like the big six are, you're not going to find Simon and Schuster putting out the Ghost of Hooker Alley or or something like that.
Their loss.
That's what we say.
Their loss, quite frankly.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Speaking of Ghost of Hooker Alley, I'll take this one moment real quick to plug that the Shingles Volume 5 audiobook anthology is out as of now. So if you folks are listening and haven't caught that yet, it's another round of Shingles from I honestly don't remember who all we have in this one. I was going to let Bob or Rick take that.
Well, okay,
I
so
certainly
it's
am.
basically by all the regulars, but it's a special treat. If you're sick of all of our shit, Emily Kaplan has joined the fray with 28 dicks later. So injecting some new blood into Shingles, or Shingles into new blood, whatever way that works.
I need to go listen to 28 Dicks Later. Excuse me, everyone. That sounds fantastic.
I think you will find that it is performed remarkably well. One would argue the work is too good for what we are providing in terms of text.
I don't know. That sounds it's right up my alley. I like the dark and the weird and the creepy and the twisty. 28 Dicks Later sounds like it could be a lot of fun.
Shingles is our version of sort of an adult Goosebumps, where we do novellas that are released monthly, shared amongst the workload. So we'll each do a different one, every few months.
Mostly me.
Yeah, mostly Bob.
Yeah,
Truly,
mostly
Bob hauls the lion's share of the work, and no one's going to say otherwise. But every 6 months, they are collected into a anthology and put out by Tantor.
So far.
Sounds like that should be turned into an anthologized TV series as well.
Agreed.
Certainly does.
What we keep saying.
Yeah.
So everyone out there, write to cable, just all cable, just
Hulu,
everyone.
Netflix. Anyone listening to this? Anyone got some?
Right.
Nope.
Write to HBO Max and say, if you're willing to give Zack Snyder $30 million to polish the turd that is Justice League, give us half that for Shingles, and we'll be happy.
We could pull in that much. We could make a show for $15 million.
Yeah, you could do something with that. You could do some good-ish.
Well, let's be honest. We could make a show for $5 million and blow 10 on dumb shit.
I was thinking like 50,000 and pocket the rest.
Yep.
This show's terrible. Oh well.
Yeah, and here I'm gonna go. Dry my tears in my Shingles Lamborghini over here.
Oh wait, did we just come up with the producers again?
Yeah, I think we did. Yeah.
Every time. So I wanted to touch back on your outside of the voice acting, the theater, film, etc. acting career. So, You mentioned that you moved out to LA and then sort of kept doing the audiobook thing. Did you continue to pursue the TV stuff simultaneously, or was it just sort of a, running with whatever was there at the time, game plan? Just kind of curious on that.
I definitely was doing both simultaneously. I had some really fantastic turns in some movies that you should probably all really watch because, one was called Little Dead Rotting Hood. I believe that's correct. Little Dead Rotting Hood.
Ooh.
A zombie werewolf mashup, just as good as you think it is. I think it has 1 star on Netflix. Please enjoy it. I got to play a cop in that. It's very, very fun. I think there was another one where I was eaten alive by wild dogs on the Sci-Fi Channel. That was nice. That was also some of my best work. But I also did, episode of Criminal Minds, which was really fun, and got to play a serial killer's girlfriend because I clearly have a type. I've done some other like fun little random things out here, and then commercials. I get hired a lot because I ride a motorcycle, so I do a lot of commercials where I ride because I don't think a lot of chicks ride, which is unfortunate.
I mean, that is a pretty badass method of transportation.
It's
Sounds like we might have to do a Little Dead Rotting Hood. Maybe pick that for an at the movies. That sounds right up our alley.
Yeah, it's really. I mean, I think it is it's a piece of art, really, truly. Yeah.
On a monthly basis, we do. You're familiar with like MST3K and like riff tracks.
Oh yes. Oh yeah. I saw the one with Rousdower a million times. I can't even tell you what it is, but
Yeah, same here. I remember Rousdower. I don't remember the stupid movie. But once a month, what we do for our Patreon is we'll do essentially the same thing. We'll pick a movie, we'll talk over it, we'll have some fun, we'll invite them to like listen to it live with us, and yeah, that's kind of one of our fun shticks, and we do invite guests.
I think Little Dead Rotting Hood might be one of those ones you could really just find a lot of nuance in. A lot of nuance.
I feel like you think you're setting us up for some sort of disappointment, but I got to tell you, just last month we watched Nazi Werewolves of the Third Reich, so you have no idea where our floor is right now.
Oh.
That sounds fantastic.
It's not.
That
is aggressively not.
Yeah, the only reason it has 1 star is because they couldn't give it lower.
Yeah, like we've watched a lot of bad movies that we enjoyed the act of watching. This was not one of them.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a bad movie.
Oh, it is.
Let me ask you, in a film
fuck.
titled Nazi Werewolves of the Third Reich, what percentage of the film would you expect to have werewolves?
I mean, you'd expect it at least 75.
Yeah, so less than 5% feels like a real kick in the teeth.
Wait, so was it just a movie about Nazis?
Kinda. Bad, boring, like not
It's
even
Schindler's
Nazis getting killed
List.
enough.
Oh, yeah.
No, more like Nazis trying to hash out paperwork.
Oh, that sounds
Very
mind-numbingly boring. Kafka-esque, maybe. Yeah.
So as I said, we've really been through the depths of hell and back at this point. Little Red Riding Hood does not scare us.
Well, all right. I mean, it's some of my best work.
Unless you're telling it's 95% Nazis doing paperwork, and then 5% of Rotting Hood.
No. Just maybe 80% is Nazis doing paperwork.
Still a step
80%.
up.
Yeah. It's great. It's real good.
Still better.
Or it was like 90% Granny being sick in bed. That would be really boring.
Yeah. No, I think they kill Grammy off pretty damn quick.
All right. That's the kind of action we're here for.
That's right. No, I mean, there's like naked girls getting eaten in the first like 10 minutes. It's classic horror. You got to do that.
Sold.
You got the slut who's making it. These are bad words to say right now, but this is the horror trope: is you have the girl on the couch making out with the boyfriend, her shirt's off, and boom, the wolf is in through the window. It's like the first 5 minutes.
I'm sold.
It's classic.
That sounds like the best opening since we watched Santa's Sleigh.
Blood everywhere. It's really great. So, go enjoy that. It's really, it's some of my best acting work, I would say.
Oh, we absolutely will.
Right up there.
Speaking of your best work, I wanted to ask, so you've done so many commercials and so many books. I didn't even know about the second name, which God, where do you have the time? Well, all right, well, is there a particular project that you find you're most known for?
Out of everything?
Or we could stick to audiobooks and then go in categories if that's easier.
That's fair. That's fair. I mean, I would say, obviously, White Fragility this year is probably the book that the most people that I know have texted me and be like, "Oh my God, I'm listening to you right now." So a lot of people have heard that. This is not just like in a, I'm not trying to make you feel good. It's true. Forging Hephaestus, I hear a lot about, and I do know I have been hired by at least 10 other authors directly because of that book.
Wow.
Nice.
They loved that book. They reached out. They're like, "Oh my God, I heard you narrate this book. Will you do mine?" So it has brought me a lot of other work, and I thank you for that. I appreciate that.
Well, that's wonderful to hear, but you did an amazing job in it. I think that's probably a big part of what drives that work.
Yeah, it's been nice. A couple publishers have also. I think it sells enough, and it's the right genre, and I think there's just less work for women in that genre. So once you kind of knock the door open, then your name starts floating around. So that's been nice. It's been really good, and I think a lot of people have heard it. And Verity, the other one that you pointed out, which is a thriller, and I won't give too much information because there is a massive, massive twist and plot points that I don't want to get into. But it was really well written, and a lot of people have listened to it, and I get a lot of hits on that as well.
Yeah, I can definitely see those are some big names, and I imagine Queen's Gambit will probably be joining them by the year's end at the rate that thing is exploding.
I imagine it's on its way, and I know there's a YA fantasy series that I did called it's Three Dark Crowns, I think is the first book that I was told was picked up by the Duffer Brothers who did Stranger Things. So if they turn that into something, I'm sure that will happen because that's kind of Game of Thrones meets. It's all teenage girls, but it's very Game of Thrones-ish. Lots of death, poisoning, dead people, magic, more magic, dead people. It's great. It's a wonderful series. Super fun.
Sounds like stuff that would get bought these days.
Yeah. So I think that's kind of the bigger stuff. I was in the very first episode of Elementary. Not a huge role, but the bad guy. I was the murderer.
Oh, that's cool. My wife loves that show.
Yeah, I'm in the first, not the pilot, so episode 1. There's a twin sister thing, and I'm one of the twins, and I'm the evil twin. Obviously, I have a type. I really do have a type. And that's the one too that people will just randomly like, "Oh my God, I saw you on Elementary," and I'll just get pings from people.
Wait. You were only the evil twin, or you were both twins?
I was only the evil twin. I was only the evil one because we were we were not identical. We were fraternal.
Fraternal twin.
Yes, indeed.
What a weird thing to use in a mystery story. Twins, but not the kind that look alike and would be very useful in a caper.
Correct. It was like, that's a little weird. And they kind of went out of their way to make us look even more unalike. I don't know. We looked kind of alike, and we were both redheads, and they darkened my hair, so my hair is like super, super dark in that episode. And I was like, "Oh, you're even trying to go out of your way to make us really look not like twins." Okay. Fair.
It's an interesting choice.
Yeah, that from a narrative perspective, I can't say I would have gone that way, but okay.
Yeah. But it's fun. It's a fun series. People seem to enjoy it. I'll take it.
I was gonna touch back briefly on the point you made about there not being a lot of women narrators in that genre. I was thinking back, and I actually do think that in the original Forging Hephaestus conversations with Tantor, their first pitch was a male narrator, and I think I had to push back on that because it was really important to me that it's Tori's story. So it was really important to me that it be a female voice as the main voice for that. So yeah, I guess I didn't even think about that in the moment, but yeah, I imagine there's probably a lot of that.
That's really interesting that they pushed back on that. Because usually with a narrator, they're either matching you to, if it's nonfiction, they're usually matching it to the author. So, I did a really great true crime book called American Predator. It's all about the serial killer that was found in Alaska in 2012 and his whole story. And he's creepy and awful and terrible, and you can like go find him online and watch videos of him. Really, really great book, but it was written by a white woman. So they gave the book to me and I narrated it, even though it's all third person, it's all very factual. It could have been a guy narrating it, didn't really matter. So they usually match the author, I feel like, on nonfic, and then in fiction, it's generally you match the gender to the lead character. So it'd be weird that they would have been talking about a guy for Forging Hephaestus.
Yeah, I don't want to paint Tantor bad. To be fair, this was not they didn't push back on me. This was just what they brought forward the first time, and I had to say, let's maybe vary up our options a little bit here. But yeah, I'm not. I mean, it might have been just I had done a lot of action series to that point.
Yeah.
And maybe that's what they were kind of expecting more out of. I'm never clear how fully like the story has been vetted and read through at that point. I don't know that side of the business very well.
Yeah, I think it was Shingles Volume 3, maybe. They got back to me and they wanted Cal to narrate Sense and Sensibility and Sasquatch, and I'm like, it's a Jane Austen story. That makes no sense.
I'm still convinced that Tantor has never read a Shingles book.
That is probably why they keep doing business with us.
Yeah.
Because they don't know what it really is. No, I love Tantor. I have nothing bad to say about them. It just is surprising that they would have gone that way. And as far as the genre goes, I think it is changing. It's just for a long time, sci-fi and fantasy was really dominated by male storylines and male writers. And it's shifting slowly. And I'm happy about that because I like narrating it. But, I'll take what I can get.
Well, I'm glad it's shifting as well because I love hearing your excellent work.
I am. I did. I narrated the novel that won I think she won the Hugo this year.
Holy shit!
Damn.
It's beautiful. It's this long. It's like 14 hours space opera, really about kind of what happens if you fall in love with the culture of your oppressors. So, this kind of master race in the universe that's taken over all these planets. And then all these planets kind of fall in love with their culture and become them, and sort of what that journey is for someone who's just being brought into the empire. It's a beautiful book. It's really, really nuanced and well written. She did great. And I think it's her debut novel. I think it's her first book.
Wow. You go on the one out of the gate. That is a hell of an opening.
Yeah, like, well done. Well, and she's a linguist, so she's like making up languages. I was like, I need sound files on this, please. I'm gonna need the sound files.
Yeah, it's one of those ones where you hope it's like, okay, the follow-up can't be Highlander 2.
Yeah. Right. Oh man, that's gonna be a lot of pressure to come out of the gate with something like that, and you're right, and you'll be like, oh shit, now what?
Yeah, I mean, hopefully, she has good people around her, because in the indie world that can be tough. I mean, you see people come out of the gate, they knock it out of the park, and the ego goes wild when suddenly like the next series doesn't hit as high, and they can't grasp why.
Yeah, it's got to be brutal, and because we fall in love with if there's a big hit out of the gate, we fall in love with that thing, and if you do a major turn. Sometimes an audience will go with you and sometimes they won't, sometimes they want you to basically keep writing the same thing over and over and over. And they get mad when you don't, which is kind of sad too.
And they also get mad when you do, because, I mean, you got to mix it up every so often. And sometimes you mix it up in ways and they're like, no, those characters wouldn't do that. It's like, well, yeah, they would.
They did do that. Actually. Yeah.
Yeah, jumping genres as an author can be a hard task, and I imagine starting out with such success only compounds that. It's definitely something that is best undertaken with a lot of forethought. Or you can do what I did and be so stupid you have no idea that's a part of the standard practice and just be like, fuck it, I'm writing in 4 different genres out of the gate. Woo!
Mm-hmm.
Well, again, if there's no rules, then you just forge your own way. I like it. I'm a big fan of the forging your own path kind of thing.
I am also a big fan of that.
It's more interesting.
Especially these days with so many different ways to do all the different forms of art.
Yeah.
digital processing, easy microphones, word processors on hand. So many hurdles have just been cleared away, and it's awesome because it gives a lot more people who have the passion access to the art.
Yeah, we see it a lot in music. Like you really, people are doing full albums in their bedroom, and they're good.
Yeah.
And it's
Of course,
impressive.
let us not forget the opposite end of that. It gives people with absolutely no talent or passion the option
All
as
of
well.
all of the tools you could ever need. Yeah.
That's fine. The cream rises to the top. I'm all about access. Like my daughter's taking a class right now. She's 13 years old. She's taking like music tech, and it's all shit she can do at home on her computer, and I think that's brilliant.
That is, and I love that she's getting into the tech side of it.
She hates it, but I love that she's picking up some skills.
Yeah, tech is hard. Sound tech is the hardest thing. Man, if you get good at that, you can go make all the money.
That's what I was telling her. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really, really hard to do sound well. And it's one of the things that humans have the least forgiveness for. You know what I mean? Like we can go look at bad paintings in a museum all day and it's fine. But the minute a CD starts skipping, when we had CDs, we're all just like, shut that shit off. I can't, oh my God, you know?
I used to work for like some high end like audio, like, you know, receiver speaker company. And yeah, I mean, our fans, I mean, it becomes like a rallying point along the lines of like, well, I have solid gold connectors, I can hear the difference. And it's like, no, you can't, but you can't really tell them that.
No, you can't. It's the same. It's the same. But it's true. Good audio and bad audio. You watch a movie with bad audio and you're like, I can't. But it can have bad visual and you'll kind of get on board.
That's just called the artistic license. Or Zack Snyder.
Yeah. Also that.
We can take pot shots. There's no chance of any of us ending up on any film ever.
I mean, you don't think Zach's going to listen to this?
Honestly, at this point, I feel like the guy might be searching for anything with his name tagged in.
Right? I mean, you know, this might be it. Maybe he'll pick up shingles and go with it, you know?
I think we can hold out for someone better.
Zach's not, no, we'll pass.
We're
We'd
holding
like
out
this
for
done well.
Come on, Michael Bay, we're waiting for you.
I would let Michael Bay do Slaughter on Giggle Time Mountain. I think that
True.
could be a fun.
You know what Shingles needs to be? It needs to be kind of like Showtime's old Masters of Horror series, where they just gave a different episode to a different director each time.
Yeah, well, it's like watching Black Mirror, kind of, right?
Yeah, it'd be fitting for the anthology format.
Yeah. It's well done. It's a different cast, different director every time, but they do seem to produce generally great quality.
Okay, so that's not a good parallel for us. Maybe Tales from the Crypt.
Yes.
Lower that quality down a little.
Just take the bar down so we don't disappoint people.
So Kenneth Branagh, you're going to be doing this story called Gary's Children. It's about a cursed sex toy in which...
Yes, no, that's great. So when the sex toy is inside me, does it, how does that work? Yeah, no. I need to go do some research. I'll be right back. Yeah.
It's so weird to hear someone do a good impression on this podcast.
Yes.
Genuinely bought me for a minute.
So I work on my Kenneth Branagh a lot. Yeah. Just, to be or not to be in the mirror all day long. Very, very slowly, if you watch Shazam.
Someday I'll sample out a bit of Bob's British accent from a particular episode and send it to you. It's a different take.
Lord Farnsworth butter biscuits.
That's the one.
You get a bit cockney? Did you get a bit like Brit, you know?
I just got obnoxious and drunk.
Oh, good.
Yeah. He was drunk in England at the time.
Oh, well then it sounds like it's probably authentic.
It surprisingly was. I've told this on here before, but I was at a pub, and there was this woman, and I swear to God, she was making fun of my fake British accent, but no, it was genuine, and it was the same thing. She was so... You would think the whole pub would come beat her with cricket clubs or something.
Do you want to give everybody a taste, Bob?
I don't know what to say.
You talk about you need to get some tea and biscuits or something. You know, you've got to run down to the corner shop and pick up some biscuits and some Earl Grey tea or something.
Find me the biggest goose and fight it. I shall eat the winner.
Well, you know, it's very Monty Python-esque.
All right,
We have a
there you go.
90-minute episode of that.
Yeah. And I've only had a couple beers tonight, so I'm not
one of our
full form.
one of the fans' favorite ones. I should also add that.
Yeah.
90 minutes of that, though?
Oh yeah, my throat hurt like a motherfucker.
Oh, yeah. No, you went full Monty Python.
He owned it.
Spam.
Spam,
Eggs and spam.
Oh,
I
there's-
like
spam.
Eggs and spam.
So there's a narrator question that springs to mind is when we talked to Kirby before, he had mentioned doing a voice that he thought was going to be used lightly in one of my books and then ended up being a much more prominent character who was very straining on the throat. Have you had any issues where you assigned a character a voice and you're like, all right, this will be fine, and then as the series progressed, you're like, oh, this was a mistake?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I feel like that's earlier in my career. I generally can kind of skip that now, but especially early on when you don't necessarily know that it's going to be an 8-book series, you know? And on book 1, yeah, you give that annoying dude that like, oh, it's going to be whatever, like this growly thing. And it's unsustainable. It's awful. Usually what I do, I cheat a little bit. I like incrementally move it into a place that it won't kill me as much. So his voice would just kind of change slightly until it got to a place where I could sustain it. Yeah. But it's helpful when authors let us know, oh, this person who's got 2 lines in this book, by the way, the next book is their book. That's a good note. It's a really helpful note for your narrators.
Ooh, I will make a point of that.
It's helpful just so we know down the line that
There's
weird
a few coming up in this next book that you might want some warnings about.
Good, yeah. Just shoot me a couple warnings. Just shoot me a couple warnings. That's it's helpful. Yeah.
Well, there's a good best practice for everybody.
Or what I love is sometimes you get to book 4 and then the author tells you that somebody's Irish, but they didn't tell you that in the first 3 books, and you're like, well, now what? Well, what do I do with that? Those books are already done.
Hey guys, I'm back from my trip to Ireland where I reconnected with my roots and found my accent.
Yeah. I have actually gone back to authors a few times and been like, all right, here's the deal. I can do the accent in this book that you gave him in this book. Or we can change it so it match. You can change how you describe him so it matches the other 3 books where I didn't know he was Irish. Can we do that?
Top of the morning, partner. I remember my time in Dublin.
Yeah, it's so ridiculous though. You can't all of a sudden become Irish when you haven't been Irish for the first 3 books. That sounds mad. Absolutely mad.
It's funny. Just last night, I was actually talking to 2 of my narrators, and the same character appears in books that they've both narrated, and the characters mentioned as having a Boston accent, and both of them were like, "Yeah, we purposely just ignored that," and and I was like, "Yeah, that's fine," because that was probably not a great choice for me.
Legit though, Boston's one of those tough ones that all the Bostonians think no one else can sound like they're from Boston. Like it's just one of those accents that like you get destroyed no matter how you do it. No one is ever happy. Ever.
Well, that fits the Boston vibe pretty well.
Yeah, I feel like they're really upholding their it's tough. Boston can be tough.
Say chowder. Say chowder.
I had a book too where they were like, Rhode Island, we need this leak. And I was like, do you really want me to go Family Guy on you? That's just not gonna, no, we don't want to do that.
Oh yeah, I guess they kind of killed that accent, didn't they? That's theirs now.
Yep, guys, if you say Rhode Island, we're all gonna sound like Family Guy. That's how it's gonna turn out. Peter.
I would not have guessed that Family Guy had an authentic Rhode Island accent, to be honest.
I wouldn't even say that it's authentic. It just kind of ends up where everyone starts to slide.
It took over.
It's in our brains now, you know?
Yeah, it's poisoned the well.
More people familiar with Family Guy than are familiar with Rhode Island.
Yeah. It's like Fargo, you know? You can't, if you're going to do anything from North Dakota, you're going to sound like the movie Fargo.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that one.
No? Oh my God. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, if you write something where that character is from North Dakota, I mean, or South Dakota, we're all going to sound like this, even if they don't all sound like this. That's what we're going to do, you know? Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I find the same thing true when anything's set in Louisiana, because everyone's all like, I was down by the river talking to the governor, and like nobody sounds like that. Well,
Yeah,
some
that's not
people
even a
might.
Louisiana accent.
Louisiana's hard though. Because New Orleans there's certain parts of New Orleans where they almost sound like they're from Brooklyn.
Right.
Then you hear someone doing it and you're like, why do they sound like they're from Brooklyn? There's some really, and then you get into the bayou and you get.
All down the Fouchon area. Yeah, well, it's on Mo. That one I can do because I'm from New Orleans a little. The thing I like about the New Orleans accent.
Wait, are you from the bayou?
I mean, biologically a little bit, yeah. I like to say I come from swamp trash proudly.
Fantastic. Well, I'm a hick. I'm an Idaho hick, so different part of the world, but a hick. I appreciate hicks.
The trick to the New Orleans one is you just have to be aggressively wrong about certain words. Like the street names are my favorite example, because anywhere else in the world, Burgundy is pronounced Burgundy. But if you're in New Orleans, it's Burgundy, and people will fight.
Oh yeah, my grandmother lived on Helois. Not Helios.
Kind of have that feud with Delaware. You know, we have Newark, New Jersey. They have Newark, Delaware, and they get really pissed if you call it Newark.
Really?
It has Calliope and Calliope.
Oh, Calliope and Thalia. Is it Thalia? I lived in the Muses for like a month. I lived in the Muses down in New Orleans, and I think they said all of the Muse names wrong. It took me a while. I was like, Calliope? And we're calling this Thalia, I think. It was Thalia instead of Talia.
Yeah.
Or Thalia? Thalia? I don't even remember. Anytime I do a book set in New Orleans, one of my best friends has lived there for 30 years as a bartender. So anytime I do a book set in New Orleans, I pull out every word that I could possibly think of to pull out. I'm just like, just read these into a phone and make sure that I'm saying it in the New Orleans way, because I know I'm going to fuck it up. You know.
Oh, I love the extra level on that. Yeah, if you're 100% confident and 100% wrong, you're doing it right.
Yeah, NOLA. It's pretty great though.
Love you, fam.
It's a good city. It's a good city. I hope it doesn't die because of hurricanes and climate change.
Yeah. It loves to flood.
Yeah, but you know, they're loyal. They stay. They stay there. They don't leave. I gotta admire that shit.
Not all of them.
I'm not gonna lie, most of my family left after the hurricane.
Okay.
They're like, Shreveport's not that bad.
Shreveport sounds nice. There's beaches, right? Are there beaches in Shreveport? No.
I don't think so.
It's not on the coast? It's not on the coast.
I don't believe so.
Okay, great.
And to be frank, a Louisiana beach is, Louisiana. It's I won't say it's worse than a Texas beach, but if you've been to Galveston,
I don't think I've ever been to a Texas beach.
You're not missing a lot. We're on the same side of the Mississippi as the New Orleans marshes and everything, so you get all the silt runoff. So you get the not pretty water and the kind of nastier sand. Down a little farther south, there are spots where it gets nice again, but for the most part, if you're not east of the Mississippi, you're getting the real brack water.
Yeah, sounds nice. Sounds really
Yeah. It's what we had.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you said you're from Idaho, but your employment story started off in New York.
Yeah, I was an Idaho pick from a tiny little town where they grow potatoes. That's really what they're known for. We have a potato museum, which is as exciting as you can think it could be. And then I just fell in love with Shakespeare and I fell in love with acting and I sort of worked my way east and I have an MFA. Why? I don't know. But I went to school for 7 years.
Wow.
And then I know, right? In retrospect, I would have done it differently. And I finished school and I moved to New York. I just threw all my shit in a truck and ended up in this crazy part of Flatbush, Brooklyn, knew nobody, had no idea what I was doing. And somehow I did not die. And I'm happy about that.
Feels like an accomplishment.
Mhm.
Yeah, it kind of was. I was like, hey, I didn't die. I was definitely the small town country girl in a big city. And I spent 8 years in New York and now 8 years in LA. So all of my adult life in big cities, I guess.
I would actually call LA the bigger accomplishment because I've spent time in Brooklyn, and yeah, there's some rough parts, but there's plenty of parts where it's fine.
Yeah, I think LA definitely. I was like, oh, LA is kind of, whoa. The first time I hit Skid Row, I was like, oh, damn, where am I? This is Mad Max. I'm literally in Mad Max right now because I didn't know it was there. Learning curve.
Good thing to know for anybody planning a post-pandemic vacation.
Yeah, just to avoid a certain area of downtown LA. Everything else is beautiful. There's lovely beaches. Disneyland someday again will be a thing.
Someday. I got to go out to California last October to visit the Universal Studios because I really wanted to tour the Good Place set. And it seemed very silly and like a little indulgent at the time. But boy, with the perspective of 2020, can't tell you how glad I am I took that trip.
Right? I was going back through photos. I was in Disneyland in the first week of March. So just when all this shit was starting, because I wanted to go to the new Star Wars ride, which is, if ever it opens up again, the new Star Wars ride is baller. Like I've never been on a ride like that. I was like, okay, Disney, you really, really went for it on this one. So I was there the first week of March, and then it all shut down. That's like my last big outing in the real world before pandemic was Disneyland.
It's a good one though.
Yeah, it was solid. I mean, I did all I ate all the food. I rode all the rides. I got drunk and rode the rides. It was great.
Oh, I can't drink on rides. I get motion sick just so easily these days. It's a real risk reward every time I look at a roller coaster.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. I'm a roller coaster fan. I'll go on those until I can't see straight.
Oh, I love them, but I got to pick them.
Fair. And maybe not have 3 beers beforehand.
I used to be when I was young.
I can still do coasters and still enjoy them. It's anything that spins that will mess me up.
I've never been bothered by the spins. I love the spins. I just hate heights.
Oh, I hate heights too, but there's a masochistic side of me that like gets on the roller coasters anyway.
Love heights. I can do the drop rides all day, every day.
Oh yeah, drop rides for sure. I jumped out of a plane a few years ago. It was great.
Sweet.
Ooh. Yeah.
Yeah, fuck that noise.
Yeah. I'm okay with heights. I don't like small dark spaces, so if you need a spelunking buddy, I'm out.
I don't mind heights, but I'm not at a comfort level of leaping from an airplane. There's a middle ground in there.
I did bungee jumping once years and years ago, and afterwards I was like, all right, I did it once, and now I never have to do it again.
That's how I felt about a marathon. I ran one, and I was like, cool, that hurt. I'm done. Yeah.
Oh yeah, those do not seem particularly appealing.
No, it was definitely a check mark. It was just a check mark on my list of like, I did that. Okay.
Yeah. Well, kudos for pulling it off.
Yeah.
I climbed a ladder to get leaves out of my gutter. Never again.
National hero.
Yeah. Have you done that more than once? Or was that just like a
No, I've done it more than once, but
impressive?
Holy shit.
You're like Spider-Man.
Heroic, truly. Truly.
Sorry, I every time we have a narrator on, I like to ask the question, do you ever do the ACX royalty share?
Yes, I have. I don't often. I do more usually like the traditional. But if it's an author that's either recommended by another narrator who's been working with them and like can just say, look, the books are good and they do sell, then that's usually the stamp of approval that I need. I have had a couple of those where another narrator has recommended me and connected me with an author. Usually it's a male narrator who's like, hey, my author needs a chick. Are you interested? And then occasionally authors will reach out directly and I will do a royalty share. And for the most part, it works out. It's a risk for everyone, but usually it works out. Yeah.
I mean, because I am not a narrator, but if I was, I would, I don't know, that would be the way I'd go. I just, like, my whole, I don't know, my whole modus operandi is to, like what is it called?
Passive income?
No, well, there's that. Yeah, that's kind of what I'm getting at, but, crop dusting, yes. I just narrate the fuck out of everything and then, yeah, crop dusting.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, they're like, you could make a lot if it's the right book over years and years and years. Doing a royalty share pays off.
I would do it like a bunch of the wrong books, and then maybe
Yeah,
some
same
of them
here.
would turn right.
I mean, and you never know which one's gonna hit big and when. I don't know.
Exactly.
Yeah, see, I know my luck, and I would be like, I'd have the same number of books as you, like 250 or so, except none of them would have made a dime.
But you're gonna keep trying, and it's gonna be okay, buddy. It's gonna be okay.
Right?
Please keep telling me that.
Insane. Still trying to speak into my microphone, which was cut out years ago.
Thank you to Blue Apron.
So yeah, ACX. I do sometimes do that.
Yeah, that's a question I'm interested in, and I like to hear narrators' answers to it.
There have been some narrators who've really like figured that shit out. Like they have their formula, they know what they're doing. Somehow they it's impressive. Like there's some of them who've really got the right partnership with the right author and they are making money.
Yeah, if I didn't have a voice like I was sucking a gravel monster's dick, then I would do that.
Yeah, but your voice is going to be perfect for the cartoon where they need the guy who sucks the gravel monster's dick. You're just waiting for your moment. That's all.
Yeah.
My
Very
debut
real
series, Gravel Monster Dick Suckers.
Honestly, if anyone was going to write that series, Robert Bevan is
Yeah.
in contention.
Yeah.
Next on Shingles.
I might listen to that book just because I would want to know what the thing that sounds like is sucking the gravel monster's dick.
You're listening to it right now.
Yeah, I'm getting the sneak peek, but I'm saying if I was the average consumer, I'd be like,
right,
well, I
right.
don't know what that sounds like.
Spoiler alert, Bob. Spoiler alert.
I don't know if there's anything else I need to. Trying to think of what I have coming up. I mean, theoretically, someday the sequel to Forging Hephaestus, but
It's with the second editor.
that could be years away, guys. So just
Oh, just you wait. This is even longer than the last one.
So I'm just gonna start working out now. Just prepping, doing a lot of exercises. It's gonna be great.
I am really excited for this next one. It was a lot of fun to write. I finally got so I've said before, so Villains Code 1, Forging Hephaestus, was a very long book. It was like 275,000 words. And I still had to cut a lot of stuff I had planned for the first book out of it. So in book 2, you actually are getting to the full main cast of the series. That's right. We didn't even get to the full cast in book 1.
Oh wow. Oh wow. I'm excited to see who joins us in book 2.
Oh, there will be fun ones. And you'll also get to do a lot more of the Helen character, which I had to hold myself back on a lot in 1 and didn't have to in 2, and it made for a lot of fun.
Oh, good. That's exciting. Bring it on.
So hopefully that will be enough of a tease for everyone to wait the, what'd you say, like a week and a half it'll take you to get that done once it's released?
Yeah, a week and a half, easy. No big deal, guys. No big deal.
Maybe a week and 3 days if you give up breathing.
And sleeping and eating. It's fine.
Just get on the Soylent. That's it. That's all I have time for.
I mean, you know, you can live on that shit. It's cool. It's cool. It's
I'm
great.
sure you can live on that. I'm not sure I'd call that living.
You can. It's actually not that bad. I used to actually get it here to try to like do a meal supplement for lunch and stuff. But I will say, after about a week, it will drive you insane. Where you're like, I must chew on something.
Yeah, yeah. I sometimes use it when I'm narrating on long days as a meal supplement. But yeah, at the end of the day, I'm like, I just need a pizza. Can I have pizza now? Can I? No?
Yeah, I get like one. Like that's the equivalent of like slamming a granola bar for lunch because you're busy or something. Like I track that. Trying to replace every meal with it seems like that would lead to some deep psychosis real fast.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think there are some people who've done it too. Well done them.
Whew. Yeah. That's like Rick's hundreds of thousands of words of listening to speech to text. I respect it. I can't do it.
Yeah, yep. Well done. Hats off. Yep.
No, that's all you. That's all you.
Killing it, sir. You're killing it.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Amy, for stopping by and joining us on this side quest. It was wonderful to have you, and we appreciate your time.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks so much for having me. I appreciate being here.
If our fans wanted to follow you and track your releases, your exploits, your social media, where could they find you?
I am on the Facebook. You can find me under Amy Landon, and I am also on Twitter. I do a lot of fun tweety stuff. So find me on either of those things.
Same handle on Twitter.
I think it's Landon_Amy. I know there was another Amy Landon already out there.
All right, and we'll try to put those in the in the episode description for folks who want the easy click.
Fantastic.
Well, thank you.
Oh.
All right. Well, thanks, guys. Have a good night.
Thank you so much, Amy. And for everybody out there listening, we will be back next week with a regular episode of Authors and Dragons. Until then, bye.
Bye.
Bye.